as stated. Any discussion?
Oh, have we been on mute
for some reason?
Oh, we were on mute? Great.
Yeah.
Let's restate the motion.
There he is. All right, all those in favor?
Let's restate it. Let's restate it so we have it for the record. We use those as official minutes and we were on mute.
Okay,
I move to approve the consent agenda in its entirety, as stated.
I'll second.
It's been motion and second to approve the consent agenda as in its entirety, as stated. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thumbs up for Travis, yes. Okay.
Well, sorry. Apparently I didn't.
All right, that's unanimously. Public comment. Is there anybody out at TV land that wishes to comment?
Did we make it?
Apparently not. All right, moving forward.
But it didn't make it.
Special presentations, reports by outside resources, staff, and government officials. Bridget God's update. Mr. David Booker.
You can already did the share.
Okay, should go do it, okay, great. Okay, well, let's see what we again. Couple months. Let's share. Okay, should you all see this slide presentation?
Like it's coming.
There it
There
is.
it
There it is. Okay. Hopefully it'll keep up as well. Okay, so quick update. I'll try to go through this as quickly or as slowly as you want. Hopefully, you choose quickly, but slowly is fine too. And stop me at any point. And Commissioner Travis, we haven't met, so David McCurry, Parsons Bridge Engineer. Been involved with the Bridge of Gods for 16 years. So happy to be here helping move things forward. So this is a quick update on the status of the project. I'm going to go through very familiar things for those who have been listening. Hopefully this works. Also a little weird here. Oh, you can jump way ahead. Maybe let's just make it forward. Okay, there we go. August 19th. 4 things really, the regular dashboards we normally see, and then I'll do some key updates. I'll talk about our findings so far, and then next steps. So just kind of to recenter us, kind of where are we, where have we been, where are we going? Overall, where we are in terms of budget and schedule, we're about 60% of the way through the current amount of money that was authorized to be spent, which is only about half of the money that's available. So we're not halfway, we're about a third, quarter to a third of the way through the budget, and we got lots of good results. In terms of schedule for the work that we currently have under contract, we're about 60% of the way through of that schedule. So, which is really to mostly be completed by the end of the year, but there'll be new work in 2026. Okay. In terms of kind of the amount of money that's been spent and the work that's been progressed, this graph was something I've shared frequently. It just talks about all the deliverable steps, the things that we are doing, and kind of where are we in terms of the graph. And really the orange is the past and the blue. And you'll notice in the orange, it gently ramps up, which is really commonly how most projects ramp up. You see kind of this S curve overall, where we start slow, we ramp up, we reach some sort of steady state of progress, and then things start to trend downward. It's interesting, there's already kind of a little bit of a kink in July/August. That was very intentional in trying to begin to sort of off-ramp a lot of the heavy efforts that were happening throughout the summer. We did a lot of field work. Actually, things went really well on the fieldwork side. We've got a lot of things done quickly. So a lot of that early progress really was a big expenditure, but also a lot of progress in May, June, July. So now what we're going to start to do, and I'll show the next slide because I'll kind of help give you some grounding on where we're at. we're gonna start to report, right? We've collected a lot of data, we've done a lot of analysis, and we're gonna really start reporting the results. So that's really what starts to happen in the next few months. The dashboard I brought up before gives you kind of a glimpse of how all of the things are going, just generally. In the green, yellow, orange, red is meant to identify trouble spots that we need to, kind of focus on. And the reason, I mean, it's easy to look at the green, those are all going well. And then your eyes kind of focus in on the yellow, the orange, and the red. So the seismic structural work we've been doing and the non-seismic structural work we've been doing has been pretty dependent on the drawings that we've been able to develop. We never found the original drawings, right? We did a lot of data research, looked through the records, found some new archives, but we never found the original drawings. Even this week, we were in the basement of House 3 with Parker and Jeremiah finding new things. They seemed to be new, but it wasn't new information. So those drawings always eluded us. So, but we recreated the drawings from the survey that we did and the information we had already from some past and recent inspections. And then we're also tweaking that work through some additional field inspections I'll get to later. So this structural analysis really relies on those drawings. Since we never found the drawings, we just recreated them, right? We sort of reverse engineered the drawings. The funding and grant support, I just kind of highlighted as orange and red because, quite frankly, on the national level, a lot of weird things happening. In DC, coming down, changes, and programs are changing, the funding streams are different. There's a big hack to a lot of the pedestrian funding that's happening on a national level.
Yeah.
Where
Short.
a lot of that.
Lists are getting much shorter.
Yeah, the lists are getting shorter, the funds are available for that kind of work are getting shorter. So I just flagged it as, hey, funding is one of those things that's going to look different in the future. It's not like there's a problem with the project per se, but it's just like the future funding is looking
The
different.
current funding though, that we have is secure,
Yes.
like it's not gonna,
Yeah.
can't be taken away.
Yeah, this activity 7 is really about planning the future. It's not about this project. So the civil, active transportation, electrical and lighting, that's all just dependent on the survey and stuff, and it's pretty minor work relative to the structural work. So I was gonna mention on the schedule, so you can see down at the bottom, phase 1, 2, 3, Albert's brought this up in the past. That's kind of the big phases of the work we're doing. We're really transitioning now into the reporting and the results. So we've got a lot of good information to share, and that's where we're going to start to focus on is this is what we know, this is what we found, and then we'll really start to talk about decisions on that information. So this graph just gives you kind of a high level of where we're at. We've passed a lot of good milestones, actually. So we'll just jump into the more interesting things. So just as a reminder, what we did do already this summer is go out and do these geotechnical borings. So we drilled down like 200 feet on both sides of the river. Got excellent information, and I'll share why. The big photo here just kind of shows the drill rig. It was positioned over on the Oregon side and on the Washington side. We also were careful to do inadvertent discovery, which means we were monitoring for any archaeological findings. Didn't find anything. But we had the right people in the right place to look. And literally, this small little picture is 2 professionals. One's a geologist. They're looking at the soil and they're saying, oh, this is some geologic formation from 2 million years ago, or rock, or whatever it is, right? And then the person on the right is actually an archaeologist who's like, I'm not finding any arrowheads in the soil, which is good news. And that's what we did, just as a kind of refresh. We also took the soil out of those 200-foot tall columns, took it to the lab, and tested that information. We also put instruments in the hole to measure different properties of the soil, including piezometers, which measure groundwater elevation, so we know what the groundwater is, and also what we call shear wave velocity testing, which it measures the strength of the soil for seismic dispersion. So that's all done. The other thing we did late at night was close to bridge intermittently for 20 minutes and took a truck of a known weight after we had installed the structural health monitoring system, and we ran it in very specific locations at very specific speeds. We came up with this plan, and we used this truck, loaded it, ran back and forth a couple times, different directions, different locations. We also stopped it and let it sit and collect the data. And that allowed us to calibrate the system that we put out there. So we know now, based on the position of the vehicle, or actually, quite frankly, we know based on the data where the vehicle was positioned, which lane, and how much the axles weigh. So we calibrated the system pretty precisely. So now we will be able to use that information, and I'll share more, to predict the future life of the bridge. What's remaining? So that was everything went really well. No safety incidents on any of the field work that we did. Collected really good information. I'll note that asterisk also last week, ODOT ahead of schedule did their biennial bridge inspection. It's required by law. They went out, climbed on the bridge, got it done in a week. The weather was cooperative, a little windy,
Yeah.
and then it rained, but it was hot. But they figured it out, and it's just a standard thing they do every 2 years, and they're required to by law. All big bridges.
This is
basically.
where they give the safety rating like Hood River got recently.
Yeah, it feeds into what's called a sufficiency rating. But yes, essentially yes.
Do we know what ours is?
The number hasn't changed, and basically the result of the inspections. It's funny you asked me that. I should know the answer to that. I think the number it's a number between 1 and 100,
Right.
right? And it there's probably a dozen or more factors
Right.
that go into the number. Part of which, only a small amount of which, is the actual structural load rating.
Mhm.
There's a huge component of how wide are the lanes, how safe are the approaches, the roads.
How wide our lane scores us very poorly on our bridge,
Yeah,
right?
much worse on the river.
I was like, I
Yeah.
saw Hood River score, so I was
Yeah.
curious what ours is compared.
Yeah, and it's a
Comparatively.
sufficient to carry
Yeah,
traffic,
Right.
modern traffic versus a safety rating.
yeah. It's not
Gotcha.
specifically structural. In fact, there's a lot of it.
Gotcha.
And
But ours is,
100 is a brand new bridge, right?
100's like a
100.
freeway.
yeah.
And also brand new.
I mean, even a brand new bridge may not be 100, right? Could have traffic, have standard lanes, but yeah, for the most part, yes. Yes, should. Smooth. So a couple other quick updates. We are doing the underwater bathymetry, so that's mapping the river bottom. And that's to get an idea around the piers if there's any big scour holes. So if you stand out there and look at the Bridge of the Gods, you'll notice big swirling water downstream of the piers. That generates scour, and it actually will generate like a hole behind the pier. That's very common. Bridges are designed for it. We just want to know, is there something there? So that mapping will tell us what's down there. There's a ship down there, we're going to see it. But we don't expect very many ships. Mostly just rock and debris and piers. We're also going to do a side scan image of the pier. I've been talking about this for a while. This happens Thursday this week. So there'll be somebody on a boat, small boat. And then we are also doing a hands-on inspection September 29th. So in addition to what ODOT did, which is a routine inspection, we're going to specific areas and collecting dimensions of places we just don't have information to make sure that we've covered those things. Okay, a little more interesting things coming up. Again, never got plans, sadly. And we still don't know who really truly designed the bridge. We know who built it, which is great. But we don't know who designed it, which is okay. We've been able to recreate the drawings. So we already talked about funding. Everything went really well, just in terms of success. There've been no safety, no issues. We've been able to get permits on time. The structural health monitoring system is up and running, everything's working. There was one sensor that had to be replaced like within a week. So that got fixed, just a faulty sensor. So as a refresher on the system that's in place now, I'm gonna show you two images. The green and the blue and the orange in this photo are just movement meters. That's the basic way to think about it. These measure movement. And then the next screen, the red sensors measure strain, which is how we calculate stress. And then we take the stress to determine lifespan and any concerns that might be associated with stress. So I'll jump forward from here. This is where the strain gauges are on the bridge, generally.
What's it? You go back.
Yeah.
So obviously where these are currently at. that distance between those two columns that are supporting it are significantly closer together than they are whenever you're over the water. So what is the calculation of this in relation to that
Yeah,
over the water?
so we're collecting the data here,
Uh-huh.
knowing that it's the same vehicles going over the bridge.
Right,
It's more difficult to collect the data on the main span.
totally,
It would have been more difficult to install and the system, which would have been bigger and more expensive.
totally,
So this is a really nice little, I'll call it like a gateway onto the bridge.
Right.
Where we can collect the data.
Right.
Also, because these spans are simpler than the truss, it's easier to calibrate, it's easier to do our digital twin structural model and compare that to what we see in the field. And
Yeah.
then extrapolate to the truss.
I guess that's my question,
Yeah.
is like, whenever you collect the data here specifically for this particular section.
Yeah.
How does that translate to the sections that are actually over the water whenever the columns underneath them are further apart and you have completely different materials?
Yeah.
And different, like,
Yeah,
because it's the metal grates on that side, but this side is still gonna be the concrete.
yeah.
So like, how does that, like,
Mhm.
how does it connect between the two?
Yeah, all the structural modeling and the stress and strain and the movement of the bridge is all done mathematically through
Yeah.
structural modeling. And I'll
Yeah.
show you the model here in a second. And here we're collecting the real data of what's actually going across the bridge.
Right.
So that we know in our structural models what to apply or how to interpret. Well, how to back calculate what's happening on the main span in in the real world
Mhm.
versus our analytical models.
Yep.
So we run analytical trucks over the whole bridge,
Totally,
soup to nuts, beginning to end.
Right.
And all the different spans and all that geometry and all those structures are accounted for in the model itself. So it will tell us the model is up and running and it tells us if the truck is 30 feet out on the main span in the left lane, what the stress is in the top part of the truss over on the right side.
Yeah.
Like we can position the vehicle sort of mathematically in the model anywhere we want. And also on these spans, we do that too. But then we compare the real world, what's happening with those models to sort of calibrate the two to make sure they line up.
Right.
And also know what is really going on, right? Like how much traffic are we seeing?
Yeah.
Right? How many trucks are we actually seeing?
Right.
And what stress is being created in the bridge? So if we calculate in the truss in our mathematical models, which are approximations, some number, and we calculate here on these spans some number,
Mhm.
but then we collect the actual data and we get a slightly different number.
Right.
We can use that information to change what we calculate on the main span.
Right.
Both in terms of the amount of stress or the amount of traffic, all that kind of stuff. I think the picture will help you get a little more comfortable.
yeah, I mean, I get where you're coming at, I guess my
Yeah.
question still is, this is gonna be a different. Everyone imagine
Hopefully.
you're building some Legos,
Yeah.
you're building up some bridges and you have, these ones are closer and they're completely different types of Legos, you
Yeah.
have some 8x2s, but over here you have a whole bunch of 4x2s. And they're gonna be further apart.
Yeah.
So the difference between how the weight will impact this particular section will be different.
Yeah.
Than how the weight impacts the metal section when those columns are further apart and it's completely different material. So
Absolutely.
my question is. You might be getting to it soon, so apologies if I'm
Yeah.
jumping ahead, but. How is that correlation being calculated within these stress tests that we're doing?
So typically, we don't put any kind of structural monitoring on a bridge.
Yeah, it's nothing to
Yeah.
do with
Yeah.
that, it's.
Yeah.
What's the, how does it,
We-
how does this particular info translate to the actual bridge itself?
Yeah.
And the stresses of the actual bridge itself versus this particular area?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I love the Lego analogy because imagine the Lego analogy you just built in your mind, right? We're gonna take those Legos and we put those in a computer.
Right.
And so we know what the different shapes and spans and sizes and materials are.
Yeah.
And all of that information goes into our structural model, and that tells us what the stress and strain is.
How much it takes to snap those little babies apart.
Mhm.
So you know if the dog steps on the smaller one
Might be
versus
okay.
the bigger one.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guess so that's still my question, is like how we, like, maybe you'll get into it with mathematical model, but like. What is that? If this is stress of, let's say, 1, but then we move over to like weights,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, we move over to the further expansion and the metals versus the concrete, like, how does that translate between those two sections of the bridge?
I mean, in some respects, it doesn't really translate, right? We're just doing calculation for different parts of the bridge, and actually, we're running the truck as like a mathematical model, applying an axle at any location along the bridge.
Mm.
In fact, we run it full length back and forth both lanes,
Mhm.
and there's rules around how many are in one lane and how many are in the adjacent lane.
Right.
And we actually envelope all possibilities of where the truck could be on the bridge using the mathematical model.
Right.
So we've created a digital twin of the bridge.
Yeah.
And we use that to calculate. And I mean, it's built off, all the different material properties of the steel and concrete, and it's all in the model.
Yeah.
And it's just like how we do the work. That's the tool we use.
Yeah.
You could do it by hand, and it used to. Well, the bridge was done by hand.
Yeah.
Okay, it was done by hand.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything for seismic. And the models that we build nowadays, you can do it much faster, and you can do a lot more.
Right.
And that's just interesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my question is, I guess, more around the specific calculations. I might be going way too.
No,
I'm
it's
just
okay.
trying to figure this out,
Yeah.
because
They're
completely different.
Let me
And I-
see if I understand it.
So basically, you put it all in the computer has all of the span information, all of the load rating for the particular type of materials,
Yeah.
and you basically can extrapolate from this type of material to the other, and the computer just analyze it all.
Yeah.
It's a given.
Yes, but so my question is, I guess one step beyond that is, what is the difference between what you're capturing here versus what is actually happening where you actually don't have the gateways? Like the
We don't
model
really
has to
need-
tell you,
Yeah.
this is what we're capturing here. And these are completely different materials, completely different scenario, completely different columns over here. So what you're capturing here is gonna have different impacts because it's different materials, different columns, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So what is the ratio between here and here?
Yeah, so I mean, I know I keep going back to this, but just to clear the plate a little bit, if you took away the structural monitoring, just said, forget about it for a second.
Right.
If we didn't do that, which ODOT didn't do, they did some testing just to verify some assumptions. They didn't actually like put something out there and monitor it. But if you take that all away, all the bridges across the US go through this load rating process, right? It's all a mathematical recreation of the bridge.
Mm.
And there's a lot of assumptions and approximations and simplifications, we call them, to try to get a reasonable answer, right? Like we don't model every single bolt and
Of course.
budget, right? We simplify things. But that's what we normally do. And we have a model of these spans, and we have a model of the truss and the Washington side as well. And each of the models has all the different nuances of the shapes and sizes and sections and materials. And then we run just a mathematical load back and forth. And it's actually trucks, it's the weight of the bridge itself, it's also wind
Right.
and seismic.
Right.
With the same model. And we get conclusions about, is it okay? Is it not okay?
Of course.
And yeah, and so that's why we normally do this. So by putting this together, we can draw more specific conclusions about what's actually happening on this bridge, not just generally what would happen. Usually the load rating is just a fictional vehicle that you say, okay, it's probably, these axle spacings and these weights, and you sort of run it back and forth and you get sort of an envelope, right?
Mhm.
But this tells you exactly what's happening on this bridge in terms of the trucks and the traffic.
Mhm.
And then knowing what your mathematical model would show, and then what you're actually getting, and closing that gap with just these spans, you can then take that understanding and apply it to the main truss. And that would really come in the form of
Weights and frequency.
weights and frequencies of weights. Yeah, it's really about the frequency of weights. Like we're a little bit less interested in, unless some massive superload comes across, right? Somebody's taking a vehicle across there that's way over the limit.
Right.
We want to know for sure. But this is more about how often is it seeing a high level of stress. So it's about the number of trucks and the way that the trucks are creating stress on the bridge. We can interpolate from these spans over to the main big truss.
And from that helps approximate potential longevity.
Yeah.
If you're seeing a lot of stress on a very regular
Yeah.
basis, then you can say, that's gonna.
You can stress steel at a low level for a very long time, but if you begin to stress it at high levels, it can't take as much.
How long are these sensors gonna stay in place?
We're using them right now to collect data for a few months. That's really the target. They will last longer and many of them are battery operated and we can just go replace the batteries. We're gonna see what the winter does, to be honest with you, it may be a little brutal on some of them,
Right.
but the individual sensors are not that expensive to
I was
replace.
just thinking the traffic is gonna be different at different times of year too, like,
It's a great segue to the next thing, which is what are we seeing, right? So this is actual graph. On the top is the temperature variation. This is just a particular day we collected the data and we said, what's happening? And so the top is the temperature fluctuations that day. And by the way, interestingly, because a lot of metal gets hot in the sunshine, the bridge does move, it moves a lot. It's just kind of creaking and cracking and moving all day long, especially when the sun shines on it. So you can see the spikes on the top graph is the temperature. I wouldn't worry too much about exactly what the temperature is. It's probably in Celsius now that I look at it, but the bottom one is the strain that we're seeing, just one of the strain gauges, right? As the bridge is like the sun rises, the bridge sees heat. It starts to like expand and it sees a little bit of stress and strain. These numbers aren't like big numbers, but we can see what's happening to the bridge. It's sort of breathing, right, in the sun. And then as it cools down at night, it sort of settles. And the reason that matters is because we then take that noise out because that's just happening.
And you get a similar kind of stress when during freezing, I mean.
Yeah, the opposite, right? Yeah, shrieks.
Shrinks and.
Yeah, so interestingly, it had a run on the bridge. System was up and running.
About that, yeah.
System was up and running. So we were able to collect what happens on the bridge when there's a bridge of a gauze run. So what's interesting about this graph is when a truck goes by, which I'll show you the next graph, I circled it because when a heavy weight goes by, like an axle, you see a spike.
Bang.
Like the stress and the strain happens very, instantaneously. Axle goes by, bang, hits it, the bridge is like, oh, But when you have a whole crowd of people hanging out on the bridge, close together, doing a little run, it looks different. Now, I would say this, that these aren't like alarming numbers, it's just we're observing the real natural behavior of what happens on the bridge. What we are going to be able to do is to translate the numbers, right, to cycles of stress, and therefore expand the bridge. So, found that quite fascinating. Jeremiah, did you have something?
I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, so, again, this is just one of the gauges, right? There's a bunch of gauges. But then I think the run started kind of close to the left line, the red line. And then it was kind of busy. Lots of people were stacked up on the bridge. So I was telling Jeremiah the other day that the sort of three most difficult times on the bridge's life are his opening day, usually the borders, because everybody's out on the bridge and people are heavy. There's stories about like the Golden Gate Bridge on opening day, things like that. And then oftentimes it's the day the bridge gets demolished because it was never really meant for the stresses that it sees. Yeah. So it's interesting, right? But we are using the real information to make conclusions and recommendations. So yeah, this was a 4 a.m. spike. It was, and we know what the vehicle was. We know exactly what causes strain, which is translates directly to stress. But it's not like an alarming number. It's just it was quiet all night, and then something heavy came by, right? So we know the frequency and that magnitude.
Be interesting when you start seeing stats to see how many overweight vehicles go across.
It's possible, yeah. And we're collecting data now, so we haven't produced any kind of formal reports on that, but we're collecting a lot of data. So we'll have that information.
What day was that on?
This was July 9th. About 4:45.
is it a logging truck?
We've I don't think we went back and looked at that one, but we have. David just said, hey, what if it was this one? And we went and looked at the cameras and we saw what the vehicle was.
License plate readers, so I look at the bill when we get a spike like that.
It was a Wednesday for it.
Now, I can't see the numbers on that, but what's even that timeline and that scale, you guys, that's just like.
Other hours, yeah. So like
So
10, 4 a.m., 4 a.m. and 5 a.m.
Okay.
So that spike is just like happens just like that. Yeah. Truck goes by.
And we were able to like check it out on video.
We can tell you exactly, we can tell you exactly what truck it was.
Was it you guys?
No, no, the load testing happened at a different time.
Okay.
Yeah, but the load testing was, just to put a pin in that one, I mean, the load testing went perfectly well, smoothly. It gave us all the results we needed and told us everything we expected to get out of the results, just in terms of the behavior and stuff like that. This is just a look at the dashboard, so you can log in online and you can monitor all the different sensors and equipment. And obviously we can collect the data and use it to do all kinds of. So I just want to share that there's an online dashboard. You know, it's my move IoT and we are monitoring this and collecting the data. So I got 3 other kind of key things, so I'll try to speed up a little here because there's like big chunks here. It's the structural health monitoring. It's also this analysis. So Albert, this is what I showed before, which is a two-dimensional model. It's just one of the simplifications we make. It's hard to explain everything that goes into this model, but it's all the structural shapes and dimensions in only 2 dimensions. So put a pin in that. We also created a 3D model, which is really what this project's been about, right? The 3D model allows us to do all the things we need to do about structural behavior, and both in terms of today and any potential retrofits. So this 3D structural model includes the piers, concrete, and all the steel. We're only just showing the 3-span truss here. We have a model of the whole bridge, but this is literally like a size or like a mathematical equivalent of all the truss elements of the bridge. So you're just seeing that interface with the structural analysis program, and there's just a ton of info behind the scenes, just lots of data. That again, we built by developing plans and then recreating this model structure. This is industry standard. This is what we do on this kind of work. It takes a little bit of time and you need good information to be able to build it. And we've now taken this model and we have been running seismic inputs into the model to get results on seismic. We've also run what we call dead load, which is the weight of the bridge, and also live load, which is trucks. This is a very exaggerated, and we do this all the time so that we can see the behavior, right? And we take a deflection. This is the deflection under its own weight. We call it dead weight, self weight sometimes. So this is a very exaggerated deflection of the bridge under its own weight. But what it does show you is that the bridge structurally sort of leans towards the river. And Jeremiah gets to talk about this a little more frequently, but it's a balanced cantilever truss. The back spans of the bridge are actually anchor spans. So the piers, the mural pier, and the other pier that's opposite in the water is holding the end of the bridge down. So our structural model verified that. And
That's just you hitting the plus button on the dead weight to see what happens.
well, we the model gets built.
Yeah.
All the properties are in there, all the weights are in there, and then we run it. It doesn't take very long actually to run just that dead load.
Yeah.
And then the model tells us all the stresses and strains and deflections that come out of that analysis. This is then exaggerated like maybe 1,000 times.
When you say exaggerated, that's increasing
It's like
the weight of the dead load.
if you were to do a 1-to-1 for the deflection,
I
you
see.
wouldn't see it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so we just exaggerate the deflection 1,000 times so we can see what it actually looks like. And this is the shape that it gives us, which is, you know,
So whenever we have 5,000 people on the bridge and they're all in the middle, that's actually putting a ton of extra stress on actually the anchor parts.
Yeah.
Because they're being pulled up basically.
not just the anchor parts, but yes.
Yeah.
If you put everybody in the middle, or when a truck goes
The
across the
sides
bridge
will
and it's
come-
in the middle. Yeah, the bridge is designed for that, just so you know. But that's just how it's designed, right? It's just how it's designed, so. And that,
Do you mind go back to the other? And I think I can, well, I still haven't got my
Next one?
question answered yet. The next one, please.
okay,
So. I guess this side is probably where you guys have the sensors, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, if you have the sensors here, it's not actually this particular part of the bridge, right? So if we have the sensors here, but it's a completely different material, and those columns are actually closer together, what is that mathematical relation between what you're seeing here versus what's actually happening up here.
So maybe what I'll say is, on the organ spans where the strain gauges are. It's a little bit less about like the instantaneous stress, like it's happening right then. It's more about how often is the stress happening.
Okay.
So we'll take that data from those organ spans about how often the stress is happening. And we know that those same trucks are going all the way across the bridge.
Yeah.
So we can calculate anywhere with this model. We don't need the gauges. We can calculate any kind of thing we need to, movement, stress, strain on this model. Just like we did on the organ spans. We have a model of the organ spans, it's not shown here. We can calculate those same things, totally independent.
Okay.
And then when we look at the data, we just know what's actually happening on a regular basis, not what we calculate to be safe load limits, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my question is still like, what is the correlation between the two? Because they're different materials, they're different like stresses,
Yeah.
all of this.
The model
I think there is a
take care of all
correlation, yeah.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
model solves all those problems.
yeah,
It's just a model that is used universally.
The way we model it is universal. This model is very specific to the
Model
bridge.
that takes in the weighting of the steel itself, the bolts, the distance between the spans, et cetera. The computer analyzes all
Yeah.
that stuff and then compensates for
Yeah.
so
that
if,
information.
if
into
we
that.
followed out Albert's question, what could be happening on that span that we are using those monitors that we wouldn't maybe see with a truck crossing on one that's not being monitored, right? We're able to take and extrapolate out based on the model and the data that this weight is hitting this at this much. But because we have a sensor here, we can actually see we can see this too. I think maybe his question is, cool, we're seeing that and we understand that we can spread that across all the bridge, but what are we not seeing that we are seeing on this span?
I'm probably gonna lose it here, but I'm gonna explain it like this.
Okay.
Everything you're looking at here is linear. So if you apply 100 pounds to the bridge, like out in the middle, we put Albert in the middle of the bridge. And Albert's, let's say he's 100 pounds.
Sure.
Let's say he's 200. I don't know
Yeah.
for sure, but just for a round number. Let's put Albert out there, 200 pounds. And we calculate on the bridge how much stress Albert caused.
Right.
Because he's 200 pounds.
Right.
Because the whole thing is linear. If we put me out there and let's just say I'm not 200 pounds, because I'm not as strong as Albert, whatever, we can actually just ratio Albert's weight to my weight to anything we found on the bridge.
Yeah.
So if we found that Albert caused 10 psi of stress over here, we just ratio Albert's weight to my weight if I was put in the same place, and we can ratio down the stress.
Yeah.
So if we know what happened on the Oregon side, like how heavy are the vehicles?
Yeah.
Not how heavy do we. So maybe I'll explain it like this. Like we do this load rating process, which is all these fictitious vehicles we run across just to make sure it's safe. And then we say, okay, safe for all these vehicle classes. But that's not actually saying what's really happening. It's not what's really going across. We just create a safe envelope of truck weights. But knowing what's really happening tells us what level of stress is the bridge really feeling, how often. And if we know on the Oregon span, like let's say we ran a truck and it was this heavy, this whatever, but in real life, it's really like this. We can just ratio it down.
Right.
But then we also know how often that's happening.
Yeah.
And we can do that same ratio all the way across the bridge.
Yeah, I guess,
Does
yeah.
that make sense to me?
Yeah, that actually probably answers the question that I've been kind of trying to get at, and I guess I haven't been clear enough with it, but it's like, we know the censorship this particular area, but we know that the entire bridge isn't exactly built or made or even structurally supported in this particular area. How does that translate to that everything going all the way across the bridge? But it is about the ratio, and I guess that's kind of been what I've been asking about. It's like, we know what this is, and it says 1. What does that mean to the other elements, the other sections, the other spans of the bridge?
Yeah, so if we thought it was like 1 on the main span, but over on the Oregon spans, we're actually getting 0.5.
Then your model is saying, okay, over here is 1. We were able to censor all this out as 1.
Yeah.
This is our baseline. And then that means this particular area has different metals, it has different
Yeah.
structure,
Yeah.
has different support trusses. And that means that this particular stress that we have here as our baseline translates to 0.1 here, 0.2 here, 1.1 here, both one.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get at.
Yeah.
How do we know that and what is that?
It is complicated, but hopefully that helps a little bit. And I'm happy to keep talking about it.
Computers are very nice for that stuff, 'cause
Oh,
I
yeah.
could never figure that out with my brain.
That sensor, the sensor that's on there couldn't account for
So.
if the truss span was made out of brand new steel and the steel at the other end was 70 years old. And there would be a difference between how they experience stress and how long that could experience stress. But those sensors couldn't tell us the difference there. It's assuming that most things are equal, at least from our understanding of the design of what that particular piece or function of the bridge can handle, right? And then we're looking at those things mostly with our hands-on inspection that we're getting every 2 years, where people are going and looking and saying, hey, we don't see a crack here, we don't see pack rust here, we don't see these sorts of things that maybe could impact your guys's analysis on certain pieces of it, where you go, this we should probably look at a little different because we have the hands-on views, pictures of all these things. So maybe that is experiencing more stress or is a weaker unit or whatever.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
I think that's where his question sort of lies in is, these are very separate pieces that have had very separate lives and are experiencing what we assume is the same exact weight, but we're also saying that they're sort of responding in the same way, which they are. But what if, for whatever reason, that one got hit by a truck 20 years ago and no one ever noticed it, so it's weaker, or whatever it is for that reason, that piece of the bridge isn't strong as the piece that we have those monitors on, or vice versa.
But they're not technically experiencing it the same way, because where the sensors are currently at is a different. It's different material, it's the columns underneath the truss underneath it are closer. Whereas when we're actually in the middle of the bridge, as we can tell from here, that's where the weight is at. So the middle is actually experiencing that weight in a different way than when you're just looking towards.
That the model accounts for. The model accounts for the way the bridge is designed. It says, okay, this is built here with these types of triangles.
Yeah.
Right. And so the model goes, well, it was 140 or 200 pounds here. It was 200 pounds here.
Yeah.
This is how that triangle reacts under 200 pounds. We don't really care how this end reacts. I mean, we do, but it doesn't come into how this triangle reacts.
Got it.
So the model accounts for that. The things that maybe it doesn't account for is some of the stuff that we're talking about. Like a thing that sensor could see right now on the end where it is that it's 65 degrees, and that's how this exact piece of metal is responding at 65 degrees.
Right.
Might be 62 at that end because we don't have a sensor on there, but we generally know how it would respond at 62 degrees. So we are getting more sort of detailed from this.
Yeah.
But it really is a lot of the amount that we're seeing, right? Because this model, you can do this model and have it not have the sensors, and you just go, this is how it responds under this weight.
Right.
But with the sensors, this is how it responds in this weight this many times a day.
Calculations.
Yeah.
Accuracy.
Yeah, and how often. And it's that how often that lets us go, okay, this bridge isn't getting ran over quite as much as we thought it was. So it's going to last a lot longer.
Hopefully.
Or else.
Hey.
Hey now.
I don't know. We'll let you know. Sure. So anyway, thanks for going through that deep dive.
Thank you for indulging me.
No, yeah, for sure.
Trying to figure that out how we
Yeah.
actually extrapolated from one area to the rest of the bridge, because there comes.
So if we built a rampage game, the bridge of gods, with a
Somebody should.
3,000-pound gorilla,
Yeah.
that model would be able to model what a 3,000-pound gorilla can do in the center of that bridge.
Yes.
Versus where the sensors are actually.
Right.
Yeah. So I have another interesting thing that we'll go through here real quick. So I'm going to try to play this video. This seismic analysis, which I mean, this we could probably spend a lot of time on this. I'm hoping this will run, but and Jeremiah and somebody else asked a really insightful question about how, try to make this make sense. In building a seismic model, because we put all the pieces and parts of the bridge together the way it really is, okay, we're able to determine its natural frequencies. And then we'll use that understanding, it's all done mathematically. Again, industry standards, this is how we do it, to compare how the natural frequencies of the bridge would respond to a real earthquake.
Right.
So just like you play a violin string, when any stringed instrument, when you hit the right sort of motion, you resonate that string, right? That's a natural frequency, and as you change the length of the string, maybe you're playing a violin or cello, you can change the natural frequencies of the sound that it generates as you run the bow across. Structures are the same way; they have natural frequencies. And if an earthquake comes along that shakes the bridge and it aligns with that natural frequency, then it'll resonate and cause more damage. So inherently, every structure is very complex, has all kinds of frequencies. And we figure out what they all are, and we figure out how they participate in the earthquake. So the seismic component of this, which is all no vehicles, just the weight of the bridge in an earthquake, we use the same model to calculate stress, forces, movements, and deficiencies or not. And then we'll use that same model to calculate. Well, we'll modify the model. We'll retrofit the bridge. So, like for example, if we put a bearing in, does that change the way it responds to an earthquake? So we're doing that, and we know where the weak links are. Not to hold you out too far, but I've been telling you that I thought they were the bearings, and we know that the bearings are a weak link. And if you think about it, the earth shakes, and then it shakes the pier, and then the pier wants to shake the bridge. And all of that shaking goes through the bearings that are between the truss and the concrete pier. So inherently, they see a lot of force. And there's a lot of other parts of the bridge that we're looking into to determine at different levels of earthquake, so magnitude 4, which by the way, I think we think based on the geologic history that the bridge is seen around at 4.3, but it wasn't a close 4.3, so it's probably not as big at the bridge side, so it's not likely that it's been hit by a big earthquake.
And what you're saying though, also that the earthquake itself has different wavelengths and different, and that our specific close location, the likeliest earthquakes, I think you were telling me, would have a different wavelength than the CSE,
Yes.
the big one.
Yeah. The Cascadia subduction zone is so far down in Earth and so far away that when it's basically the two plates rubbing and it slips,
Yeah.
and it causes a lot of energy to be released and the ground shakes, but it does it in really big ways, big ways, right? Whereas when a local earthquake fault in the area, like there's some just northwest of here, when they break, they're small, but they're close, and so they do this kind of more.
Yeah, a little
Jiggly.
jiggly,
Yeah.
a little jello
Yeah.
earthquake,
But
right?
we look at both of those.
Okay.
We actually have 3 different types of earthquakes, so we provide input into the models,
Okay.
and then we determine where the deficiencies are. Again, this is how we do it. Like this isn't like.
So you're saying there's a known weakness in the bearings. Are those things that are able to be upgraded or replaced to strengthen the bridge? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Any part of the bridge could be strengthened or modified in a way to mitigate those deficiencies.
Mhm. Can the model also run a lesion, a strike against the bridge?
Yes.
Pick a pier, something hit it?
You bridge back on this always.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that's happening. Just put a pin in that for a second. There's more interesting stuff. So I mentioned to you that we did those deep borings. Well, what did we find? This is small. I'll get you guys pronounced. So all you really need to know is that there's 2 images of the bridge here. So this is like looking at the bridge. If you're on the stern wheeler and you're kind of sliced through the bridge and looking at it from the dam side.
Okay.
There's kind of a gray background. That was the original bridge location, and then the green cyan bridge is the raised location. But the colors are the land formations, the geology below the bridge, and the purple is Ohana Coach, which I don't know what that means, but it's really old bedrock. And I was telling Jeremiah this before. You just think about the fact that the Cascade Mountains have been rising up due to plate tectonics, but the Columbia River's been here longer. And it's just been slowly carving out down into the mountains as they rise up, and that's why it's so beautiful here in Cascade Lodge, right? You have this weird combination of river and mountains, right? But anyway, the good news is all that purple stuff is good foundation material. It's good, solid, firm material. It's not the bottom of a landslide. On the left side, this is the Washington side, that yellow color is the Bonneville landslide deposit as it's spread across the river. We know how deep it is, and it's not as deep as you might imagine. In other words, it kind of came into the river, and then mostly kind of got washed away where the bridge is. And then the green stuff on the left is just fill that like man has brought in, building roads and building railroads and things like that. So the great news is that the soil conditions at the Bridge Valley are actually great, which is not what we expected, right? But doing the boring really shows that. And what that really translates to is seismic retrofit has a much higher probability of like not being expensive, not being super costly. We don't have deep liquefiable soils, which is the problem in the river. You know, very deep liquefiable soils, which means an earthquake, it kind of turned them up like really deep. Bedrock's way down. And here, we don't have that. So that's great news for the possibility of retrofitting crypto gods. And on the right side, there's actually really old historic deposits that are landslides as well that have come down from the mountains. We're talking millions of years, sometimes thousands of years. But, I mean, the Bridge of the Gods landslide on the Washington side is it's thought to come down in 1476, I think. There's a close, maybe a better view, just the current modern day bridge. And yeah, at some point I'll do a larger printout so you can kind of take a closer look at. But at the end of the day, we actually did some geotechnical analysis of the slopes to determine, already completed this, to determine is there any landslide potential right at the bridge? And the answer is yes, but very, very minimal, like very localized. This is just a coloration of how much the earth would move in a big earthquake. And it's not much, actually much less than you would expect. This is a closer up view of that. So yeah, on the right side, this is like the Oregon side. This is like where the railroad is right here. So if you imagine you cut a slice through, and the blue is just right at that first pier in the water. You know, in a really big earthquake, the Earth's going to kind of slough toward the pier, and it's not a big number, and it's manageable size of Earth that would slide that direction. This is very common in an earthquake, right? And on the left side, you have kind of a similar situation, but it's really not unreasonable. So,
Do we know that Earth is currently sort of loose? Like, why would it?
earthquakes, it's just, this is the subduction zone, like a big, like lots of energy,
Yeah.
lots of shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, so why the Bonneville landslide is there,
Right.
you know, just tons of energy coming up from the earth.
Yeah.
So these kind of slope failures you're going to see kind of throughout the gorge in a earthquake that big. This would be very, very common and not that big of a deal.
Right.
So, great news. So these are just kind of next steps. Again, we're going to continue to do analysis, document a lot of the detailed vulnerabilities. We also are putting together a preservation and maintenance plan, finalizing the drawings for the bridge, concept plans for retrofit, as well as for lighting. Sorry, that was a lot, but
It's great.
I mean, we've made a lot of progress.
It's all fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
That is good to know. Better than we thought.
Yeah, the bottom line is better than we thought. Yeah. So. Travis, anything from you? Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right.
He's doing good.
Yeah.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
All right. Commissioner comments and subcommittee reports. Start on this end this time.
Yeah, let's see. First of all, big shout out to our work at Dave Log's team. I haven't had a chance to say anything since before the 4th of July weekend. I did spend some time interacting with everybody that was part of the fireworks celebration, so it's good back a while. But I spent a lot of time talking to everybody that was involved in that, and honestly, they did an outstanding job. The other thing too is I definitely could sense that I definitely got the sense that everyone was really proud to be doing what they're doing. They're taking great pride in it, and just like that was a great team with the right attitude. And of course, that brought forward as well with the PCT days. It seemed like a really good success, and how that all was managed out. And then, of course, everybody in this room, you guys are rock stars, so it's awesome. Update on the mountain biking side, yes, to Brad's comment earlier, first got here, is like, did the rains, get any, is that advantageous for doing some trail work? So yes, some volunteers got out there and we started to progress. The Easy Climb, skills area project, probably wrapped up in October, November, just based on everybody's volunteer schedule and the weather. Yeah, other stuff's been good about mobilizing some additional equipment. There's gonna be a lot of, big challenge was getting an auger to drill holes for the fence we're gonna install and signposts and all that. And we literally got some volunteers to go pick up our auger, which was in Portland, in a container way off into the woods. And right before a road closure was gonna close the road for almost 2 months.
Oh,
So
geez.
we literally got it before the road got closed. So it was like a big scramble to get the equipment before it got blocked in.
Okay.
This too heavy to carry out for miles.
Was that Andy that had to do that?
No, it's the other
Oh,
folks, but
okay.
yeah,
Poor Andy.
it does a lot.
Okay.
Let's see, the other thing is, that whole comment regarding, build it, they will come. Has actually, really happened already, with work we've really been investing in the mountain bike trails and skills area and everything else, that unbeknownst to me, without my push or anything like this, that the Take a Kid Mountain Biking Day is coming back to Cascade Loft.
Oh, cool.
That happened back in 2011, 2012, well, probably 2012, 2013, when Easy Climb first got started. Take a Kid Mountain Biking Day originated, that whole event originated in Cascade Locks. And the early version of that was like 300 kids running around there with bikes. I mean, it's definitely an activity a family-centric activity to get people to come out and get kids on a bike and really push to have a sports active lifestyle mentality embraced with the younger community. So anyway, that's coming back to Cascade Locks, which is a big deal because it actually had moved to Portland and Gateway Green, which was a big area, and obviously it's closer to people in Portland. So just a testament showing that the quality of what we're building out here is really appealing enough that it actually trumped the existing facility that they're using. Gateway Green. So anyway, that's happening. That's going to be October 4th, and Eric Oliver is leading it from Northwest Trail Alliance. He's the Youth Recreations Program Director. And he's in the process of communicating with Jeanette to get the proper stamp of approval and permits and all that good stuff. We're good to go.
Cool.
Christie has got that to mention at this time. That's all I got.
Excellent. We'll try Travis. Travis, do you have any comments you would like to add?
Nope.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, all is well. That's pretty exciting about the mountain biking day coming back. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Well, Alvin,
Welcome, Travis.
yes.
Next week, we want a 4-page report in your commissioner notes for next month.
There will be a quiz. There will be.
To kind of piggyback and echo off Commissioner Dodd, PCT and Richard God's run were great successes. I just want to give a shout out to absolutely everyone involved. Like, obviously, tourism from the city was involved. Port Vince did a phenomenal job. I saw Jeanette cruising up and down the street so much during both of those events, helping out as many people as she could. Port Meetings did a phenomenal job making sure that the grounds were just completely well taken care of, and there wasn't as much damage as you would kind of expect with that many people in both of those particular situations. They did a phenomenal job. Like, even the toll booth people having to deal with all the extra work and all the extra cars and all that stuff. So everyone involved, as far as the concerned, great job.
Yeah.
I also want to note that the Dry Creek parking grounds, the showers, and the camp price increase to include the showers has seemed to be a very big success for a lot of the hikers that have been around. I know at Buddy's Arcade specifically, a lot of the hikers have been very appreciative of those tokens that we've been giving them for Dry Creek.
Great.
And then also updating the camp prices to include the showers has proven to be very helpful, useful for them, but also has made everything a lot more cleaner.
Mhm.
Nice environment.
So that's been
Smell better.
Yeah. So it's been appreciated not only by them, but I know by just locals in general. So
Great.
kudos again for making that amenity like part of the experience that a lot of hikers have when they come to town. School starts next week, so if you have kids, get ready for that. And other than that, yeah, Labor Day is coming up, and then hopefully a little bit of downtime.
Right.
As we start moving into fall and winter. So that's it.
Awesome. Sure.
Well, I want to thank David again for the presentation. I learned a new word today, bathymetry. Never seen that one before, so looking forward to what's to come for the bridge. Speaking of the bridge, the Centennial Party. We haven't had a meeting for a little while, so we have one coming up on Thursday. I think we've got some information about potentially hiring an outside source to run the party and do all the logistics, at least some costs, but still looking for estimates on how much it'll cost to hire a person to do that. So we'll see what comes of that. But I think it would be extremely helpful to hire somebody to do all of the logistics planning of a party that caliber. Speaking of parties, the bridge or the historical museum is planning their big event for October 4th on the Sternwheeler. This year is we're partnering with the Cascade Locks PTO. The burden of throwing a giant pirate party was a lot for only one or two people to handle, so we're spreading the love. And the Cascade Locks PTO is coming in with their casino night idea, and we're combining that with a cruise. So we're gonna have a Sternwheeler casino cruise.
It's also the same day as we get out like
You take your
We just
kids
found
mountain
that out.
biking and then go to a casino night.
Well, and they're gonna have
And sports
babysitting available, so if the parents wanna stay and have something fun, you could advertise that.
Sounds cool.
Afternoon thing.
It'll be like 5 to 8 p.m.
Awesome.
What's your event? What's that?
It would be during the day, so 9, 10, so.
Perfect.
Something like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Get them
You
to
can be
stick
at both.
around for longer.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, looking forward to it. We had
That'd
our
be
first
great.
planning meeting for it yesterday, so good things to come there.
Awesome.
I think
Well,
that's it.
thanks to staff and everybody that put so much effort into, as you said, the last two events. The half marathon, my son Jordan actually ran, was
Oh.
10th out of 1,000 people, and he
Wow.
was 4th in his age group.
Wow.
So yeah, he was very happy with that, but just missed getting an award because he was 4th. But anyway, but he loved it. It was great. He said, "Man, that was a lot of uphill both ways." And so
I was first place in the 0K.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great, and we went down to PCT days, and that was also seemed to be very well attended. And it appears that the somewhat inclement weather we had on Friday didn't seem to deter people at all. Seemed like there was a pretty good, and the town was packed all weekend. I had suggested to Jeremiah that perhaps the port should get together with the businesses in town and have kind of a, we want to do. We want to help you to help yourselves and help your businesses and be able to give them some information and, here's things to be learned and here's things that could be done better. The grocery store, I think, was a little understaffed and undersupplied, but any information we can provide them in the one way, it's not our job, but on the other way, anytime that we can help businesses to do better, that's gonna help us. And, we're all about economic development, so I think that would be well received, so maybe we'll be doing that, I don't know.
But it might be the whole, I definitely had some hikers on the day of Thursday. Specifically say on the, I don't know if it's the PCTDA's website or the North Shoreline website, but they said that they were seeing conflicting times when they could set up their camps on the island itself. So it wasn't super clear to them when they were able to set up and when they had to take down. But they said there's inconsistencies between the different places as well. So I think being able to have some sort of debrief with the individuals and the businesses in town to make sure that we make it more successful next year would be great.
So there was PCT, so between the PCTA, not the NWTA, the PCTA site and the PCT Days website?
Yes.
Okay.
Or maybe, our camping site where whoever they were getting the information on when they could set up the site, their
Yeah.
campsite on the island. They were saying in the different places they were looking, whether it was website or Facebook, they were seeing different conflicting information.
Yeah, okay.
So something as simple as that, that was to add on and to.
Yes,
to
absolutely. Yeah.
piggyback onto what you were talking about.
So, other than that, I have not had any, special meetings, but, lots of things coming up, I think, always we're, gonna be doing things, starting to, kind of process, information we're being provided on potential, RV park in the future, and, we'll be looking forward to that. Overall, it's well received. There are always a few people that say, "Oh, I don't know. I just like to walk my dog there, and I just don't want anything to go there." But they understand. But on the other side of that, they understand. But I think overall it'll be good, and yeah, I think there's great things to come.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we're moving on to executive director report.
Parker's out, I'll take events with the multiple CGRA events, and then when we left out was the Gorge Summerfest. So that was an event that Friends of the Gorge did down in the park. That event was really successful and saw a good turnout for it. Love to have them back next year. I think that coming into it, we had some concerns about them being able to have enough staff and really having done an event like this of this size in a public park. And our park's a little bit unique. It just has one entrance and the parking is challenging. And so, we were certainly holding our breaths that it was going to go off without a hitch, and it seemed to go off without a hitch. So that was exciting. Our debrief with them, which we usually wait until after we finish all the events, and sit down with everybody, but they'll get really high marks from us, and be excited to have them back.
How many people showed up for that?
Yeah, I would say 300 to 400. Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Like bands.
Yeah. And in November, typically what we do is we invite all of the events to come back and come to the commission and tell you how it went, things that they've, typically we'll do a debrief with them in a private setting versus in a public setting, say, hey, these are the things we saw, or these are the things that were in your contract that didn't happen or should have happened. So we'll have that sort of private meeting with them. We'll get feedback from all of the commission to go back with it. And then they'll come back with us in November. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are able to give some really detailed accounts of this is how many people showed up. This is what I found out from the hotels on how booked that they were. And they can put some sort of economic impact numbers around what their event did for the community. It's our opportunity to wish them congratulations on a good event, is also opportunity for them to sort of say thank you for letting us have it there. So we'll look forward to seeing that. We're always kind of excited to PCT days come. We're also sort of excited to see it go. It means we're wrapping up, or at least getting close to wrapping up the end of the event season, although that continues to press into the shoulder season. We have the cross-channel swim coming up on August 30th. Bonneville Dam's going to be having their annual company picnic down in our park. So there'll be continuing to be events and heavy usage in the park basically until October. It won't be these large scale events. But again, as staff, it certainly ramps up the amount of level that we have to focus on the park, be present in the park, the amount of people that we serve on a regular basis across all portions of the park. So this hits your toll taker, this hits your campground, this hits your marina, this hits the park itself, this hits our administrative side. It's everything's a lot more amped up in the summer. It also tends to deviate our staff away from some of the projects that they're working on. So we'll be excited to get back to being able to focus on some of the projects so that we can be ready for the next year's season. But it's ultimately been really, really successful. The mayor called me up and gave me some feedback. She had really good things to say about PCT days. She also had some concerns and some feedback she wanted me to pass on. None of it was earth-shattering or terrifying or scary or things that would impede this event from going forward, but things that would add to it and make it better. So she wanted to give a round of applause to the Apport for that event. And we heard nothing but good feedback so far from the businesses in town that were able to serve the hikers. Probably more updates on events that Janetta could give, but Cross Channel Swim August 30th will probably be the next one we see that has the biggest impact in the park. That'll start at 5 a.m. They'll jump off the stern wheeler. And we'll swim over to this side. We'll have a big way to go. So you want to talk admin a little bit?
Okay.
All right. I'll do operations too, just why we're here. So Parker again and his team, these events, the amount of people in the park, constantly pushing maintenance there. So you see, we did some updates or some repairs to the pedestals in the campground. We obviously continue to mow the grass and do repairs to the grass. The PCT took a heavy toll in some pretty specific places. It held up really well in some spots, but there's some pretty specific places that we're going to have to get it back to life sooner rather than later, and maybe make some adjustments on where we put things at PCT days, especially anything that's close down to the pavilion where when a bride this next Saturday is like, this didn't look like this last time I was here. And we're like, yeah, we had a major event. The rain didn't help that. I think that also gives us something to think about with events in the shoulder season period, is that, an event in October sounds awesome, but it's going to have a definite different impact on the grounds. We see it with the waterfall race. It happens in April, so it takes a pretty good toll on the grass out there. Then we get a couple of months before our next event, and it's the perfect time of year for it to sort of rebound. But in the shoulder season, we could see that as well. We poured some concrete pads as a grant match for the museum. They got a grant for some bike racks out there. So we, as a match for that grant for them, provided the labor of pouring the actual concrete. So some new bike racks out there. Again, lots of setting up for festivals. Bridge of the Gods already happened. Friends happened. You have anything else on there?
Let's go Gami.
Dogami is a stormwater.
The quarry.
And there two?
It's the quarry.
Isn't there two? Isn't there Dogami
Yeah.
stormwater? I think this is the stormwater one because he's got submitted annual 1,200 stormwater permit sample. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So there's two permits. There's one for stormwater usage that we have to submit, and then another one for an operation of a quarry. So we have the gravel pit at the other town. So it's one of those two Dogami permits.
Dogami is the permit for the out the gravel pit.
It for sure is, but there's also a stormwater one, and as I recall, this is the time of year the stormwater one comes. Want to talk admin?
Just a couple of things on the grant front. We got notice today for our Marine Park East restroom application that we made it through committee, and they recommended funding that grant. The commission, the Oregon Parks and Rec Department Commission, meets September 17th. And they'll decide that, but that was really good news. We made it through committee on that one. OPRD is opening multiple programs right now. So I've got several webinars sort of stacked on my calendar for the next couple of weeks. Today they had the Heritage Grant training. So we'll be kind of lining up potential applications to Parks and Rec, which in stark contrast to the federal programs are for the most part continuing. So that's really, really good news. Let's see, we did receive the grant closeout notification for our FEMA grant. So that didn't, that is complete. And that was for the sewer lift repair. That was the result of the blizzard. Also related to that, I attended the Red Cross training in Hood River and met with Gabriel Fabiano, who is our regional manager, and was able to talk with him outside of the training about our warming shelter. We'll be able to schedule a site visit with Gabriel, and he will take the lead on writing the operation manual for the shelter. One thing that we do need to do, Rally, is local volunteers who are willing to be the door openers for the shelter. So specifically need folks who, in an emergency, when we need to open the shelter, warming, cooling, fire, whatever, door openers are specifically trained by the Red Cross to open up the shelter and have it running properly until the Red Cross folks can show up, which, could be a few hours, could be a day. And so we need to find at minimum, I think 5 people locally who'd be willing to be door openers and get them through that Red Cross training. And then the rest of it kind of, you can always do more, but you can also specifically say, I will only volunteer in Cascade Locks at the shelter as a door opener. And so you can keep it really small in terms of your obligation. So that's what we're working on there, getting ready for when the snow flies.
Well, with that, with the door openers, you said at minimum 5, with that Red Cross training. Would it, I know that when we originally started talking, or not originally, but we talked about this before of making sure that we have some sort of basically support. So in case it was an emergency where, earthquake or whatever, someone broke an arm or whatever, they can help out with small things like that.
Yeah.
Versus our fire department, where they should be somewhere else doing other things.
Yeah.
Was that what they did?
Yeah, it goes up to a certain level. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's basically, how to get the doors open, welcome somebody in, how to register somebody, and then specific training on access to and everything that needs to be done from the moment that the door opens to ensure the safety and security of the people who are sheltering, which is a bunch of stuff you wouldn't have thought of, so it's really, really interesting. At the end of the training, I was like, I'll be a door opener. I could do that. And it's really, really interesting work. So
I would volunteer.
okay, great. So there's 2 down. We need 3 more.
I do know, I've chatted with a couple of people about this, it would be good to make sure that, whenever we do have the 5, or even if it's more than 5, up to 10, that, they're a good representation of the entire community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just so we can make sure there's people from everywhere in the community and people who
100%.
speak every different language in the community.
Yeah.
To make sure that everyone feels welcome and everyone's alerted, because not
Yeah.
everyone will have like social media to know to go.
Yeah, exactly. There's so much, we're such a Facebook heavy group, but it doesn't reach everyone. Yeah, and Gabriel has offered to schedule a in-town site visit for our warming shelter, specifically to meet with us about, the specifics of our shelter. And then that same day to do a Red Cross training for people who might be interested in volunteering. So he is ready to do that. He was sort of, middle of fire season. It's kind of hard to schedule him, and his region is literally the eastern half of the state, but he's stationed in Bend and can come up and do this at any time. So that was really, really cool. Yeah. Couple of things that I mentioned in the admin that probably should have been in events is that Janetta is working right now for a planning for an event in September that is the Tribal Food Sovereignty Gathering that will take place Pavilion Center Park, and they may or may not, they haven't decided yet, use House 3 for some breakout sessions. And we also received interest for another tribal food, the Return of the Salmon celebration in March. So, as Jeremiah said, it's kind of pushing into fall and earlier spring for events on the grounds, and but some more interest on that. So Janet is working on those right now. And I think that's it for me, other than what's in the written report.
I got a newfound appreciation with events with that community picnic. I was I was at cash and carry with like the last minute, like
Yeah.
Great.
We did so many things last month.
Yeah,
So tired.
right, got that one too, but it was really great. It was super well attended. I always hope
Really
for
fun.
I always hope for more. It's really fun. I would love to be able to get the word out a little better next time. We really did sort of make an effort, a really sort of last minute decision to combine National Night Out and to combine that community picnic. We rely pretty heavy on the fire department to do the cooking during that. And so it's a back-to-back event for them. We're like, hey, and so it was good. It was good to see the community come out. We hired some folks to do and had some folks volunteer to do set up some karaoke for us, which was great. We thought that was super fun. All in all, I heard really great things about it. We're gonna
The
come.
ads were great.
Those are fun, right? We're gonna come in under budget on that, so we'll have some money to return back to them. We don't return to the cities, won't bill them for it. But we'll come in under budget, not a lot, but a little bit on that. All the food that was left over or not used was donated to the fire department. So that's how they can feed their volunteers who come in on these fire stuff. So doesn't get wasted and goes to a great place. So that was a lot of fun. A lot of effort with meeting with Jason over the last few weeks. Um, Also connected to events. I get fairly heavy in sort of the oversight of some of the stuff and not a lot of the boots to the ground on it stuff. So I was very much more boots on the ground for the community
It's fun
picnic.
to
And
see,
yeah, I was feeling
when
it.
you're doing the thing that everybody thinks just gets done.
Right. I wanted to thank Commissioner Dodd and Commissioner Gans for heading over to Hood River to the SDAO board training. I know that Commissioner Dodd and I had sat through that a number of times that we kind of leaned over and thought, we could probably teach this right now. And so I was a little concerned about a new commissioner being bored out of his mind. And I'm not going to say you weren't bored at certain times, Travis, but when he got to the end of it, he's like, dude, I learned so much. And I was like, great, great. And he's like, answer so many questions. And so it was good that, it was good, A, to get the training out of the way, but two, that something we'd been through so many times that we've kind of lost fresh eyes on it. And so I was glad that Commissioner Gans was able to take that away from him. I'll give us a quick update on the campground. It's not as robust as I would like it to be, but it is full steam ahead. So we have three studies that we're currently undertaking. One from Economic or Econ Northwest, which is our comprehensive land and real estate and development study. So Jen is heading that one up probably more than I am, although I got to sit in the last couple of meetings, a team effort, but we will have them at the next commission meeting. At the next commission meeting, they will come in and present some of the work that they've done so far. And this will be an opportunity for you to go through each one of our properties that we have with them and for you to brainstorm a little of the things you would like to see out there, the things you would definitely not like to see out there, the things you want to know about that property. And they're already sort of working on what the best use is, at least from a surface standpoint. They're not going to do their own study on if you guys say, hey, this should be, for instance, a campground. They're not going to do a feasibility study on whether or not the campground actually works there, but can tell you whether or not that's a property that could potentially have a campground on. It's worth digging in a little farther. And that goes across all of our properties. So you'll be able to look at the properties that we have for the residential housing. You'll be able to look at the fire station property, which we're calling the gateway property. You'll be able to look out at the additional properties that we have in the business park. That's going to give us a really good, and the three properties that we're potentially looking at in downtown. Really good way for us to look and where before it was kind of, we could do anything with this. And we kind of got where when we didn't do anything with it because anything was possible. Now we'll be able to look at these properties, each and every one, and say, this is best use for it, or the top three uses for it. These are the challenges with it. Like, it's a great piece of property. It would be good for this, this, or this. The challenges is it doesn't have electrical. It doesn't have utilities. And so they'll come and get your fingerprint sort of on that, on the stuff that you want to see, things that you're hoping a piece of property can be used for. We'll do more work with that later on. We'll then go and prioritize some of those properties and say, hey, Jeremiah, let's focus on these three, or maybe let's sell this one or whatever. But that's work to come, but certainly good data that we'll get from them. They will, of course, look at that piece of property that you guys are considering putting a campground on there. So it's going to have at least a certain assessment of that and whether or not a campground would be something that would fit out there. At the same time, the port has hired the campground consulting group. We've had our first kickoff with them, as well as the site visit with campground consulting group and one of their
Subs, yeah.
yeah, one of their subs, thank you, that is doing a preliminary design on that. And so they had an opportunity, one, to kick off, meet the team, and then have had an opportunity to go out and take a look at the actual property itself, walk the grounds. What's that?
With Darren.
Yeah, I went out there with Darren from AKS. And then we also walked a lot of the grounds, went out on the end of Easy Climb to make them understand, hey, listen, the campground's here, but this is the backyard for the campground. And hey, the new biking trails that we're doing, they're just this far up the road, and really drove them through the park and got a good understanding of like a lot of the amenities, maybe not right here, but they're just a hop, skip, and a jump away. And it's really like, how do we get people in this central location where if you want to be on the river, it's just right there. If you want to mountain bike, it's just right there. If you want to camp or hike, it's all just right here. Whereas maybe we don't have whatever that specific thing is that some other campgrounds may have. So they will take a look at a feasibility standpoint of is this a place where you could have a campground? Does it make sense to have here? Are there infrastructure that's in place that would support that? At the same time, they're going to do a market analysis. And so that'll look at regionally as well as nationally some of the trends on what sort of amenities we should or shouldn't have or consider having. Things like, do we want pull-throughs? Do we want back sites? If we have back sites, we can have, well, if we have back ends, we can have more. If we have pull-throughs, we can have less. It'll look at some of those things and make some recommendations. We'll also look at the surrounding area and say, hey, this is what the KOA is getting. This is what this campground is getting, and give us some recommendations on an operational way to operate that, the number of spaces that we would likely need in order for it to break even, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At the conclusion of both of those studies, they will come back to you and present their findings, which will typically look like, hey, this is what the market analysis looks like of your area. This is what the feasibility looks like. They will give you a yes, go ahead. I think this is a smart move for you guys to take those next steps. From there, you will meet with the Naughty group, who is their sub. That's an opportunity where you'll have a chance to put your fingerprint on the amenities that you'd like to see in that campground or would hope to see in that campground, the things that you want to advertise and market that campground as. Of course, Naughty Group, which is typically specifically what they design is campgrounds, is going to come to you with a lot of recommendations because they've been through this process already on this campground and looking and watching it and been part of the market analysis, which is nice because this all joins. So they're going to tell you things like, hey, you probably are going to need to have 60 spaces and 40 of them are going to need to be this way. This is a way that we think we could design this, and give you guys an opportunity to go, yeah, we don't really like that one. We do like this one, and take that feedback and then come to us with the preliminary design as well as some conceptual drawings. And from there, that really will be sort of the point of, yeah, the launching point of of construction, right? We'll have feasibility, we'll have market analysis, we'll have preliminary design, conceptual, we'll reach out to get some public interest. And from there, it's going to be looking at the rezoning that needs to happen, which is actually going to happen kind of over the top of a lot of these things. It'll look for some of the subdividing of the plats out there. That'll sort of happen over the top of this. Those are known issues that we're going to, or not issues, nor known hurdles. So I'm not going to wait to get to the end to say, well, next we do this. We're going to start working on it as well. But we really do need to get as many questions answered when we do that public feedback, so that when people say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? We're able to answer those questions, have studies to support it. Having those studies to support it is also what's going to allow us to go after grants if that's something that we want to do. We will put ourselves to be in a position to go after grants because typically they want to be the last money in. And we have money to do matches. And these studies are all the things they're looking for that says this thing is not going to get held up and it's going to happen. So we're putting ourselves in a really good position to do that. So I want us to forward think about whether we get to a spot where we have sort of this design on this campground and have good, this is what we want it to look like. This is what we want it to have. This is where we think, and the price tag is this much. And we go, Okay, well, we only have this much. Do we then design in phases and say we roll this part out and then we'll find money elsewhere? Do we use the money to find additional money, which should be easier to find? So those will be things to think about as this is all coming together. But that ball is rolling.
And for Martin's benefit, Naughty Group is spelled NADI.
Thank you. Those are all coming to, yeah, it's moving and it's moving at a pretty good clip. So we should see them in here. It's gonna move pretty quick.
Yeah.
Have they put together like a timeline schedule for them to do their consulting work, like?
Yeah, October.
All the way where they want to stay engaged?
Preliminary, I think that we will, in October, we will see Nadia Group in here asking you, hey, let's put your guys' fingerprint on what you guys think of a design. It's gonna be a lot of a design person who's built campgrounds, kind of leading you guys a little bit, but also being able to say, yeah, no, dude, we want a big giant community fire pit that runs on propane. Can't have fires in the gorge, but if we can have a propane one in a pit, I don't know if that's the amenity that you want, but those types of things. And so it'll move, we'll get there pretty quick. The biggest hurdles will be when we go to actual design and construction. That piece is going to need to go through longer procurement cycles and RFPs.
Yeah.
And then we'll know more because we'll move in that preliminary design. There's some things I can't do until I have design. I can't do a traffic study until I know what I'm building. That traffic study is going to have to come out. So there'll be some things here, but for the most part, we're moving at a good clip in a good direction with most of the hurdles. At least I don't have any unknown hurdles at this point. There's nothing that I'm like, man, I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know how long necessarily it's going to take to get through all those processes, but I know that they're processes that they're going to have to get through. So far, so good.
So, am I catching this right? So next meeting next month is going to be the Con Northwest is going to come talk to us, and then their sub Nadia is going to be talking to us the following meeting in October. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. Econ Northwest won't come back with.
Nadia is not a sub to Econ, right?
Yes, Nadia is a sub to the Campground Consulting Group.
Got you.
So Econ Northwest sort of separate, all the properties, Campground Consulting Group, very focused on market and feasibility of the campground, Nadia Group, preliminary design and conceptual. And that'll kind of get us to the direction we need to go.
Copy that.
Exactly those timelines are gonna go. I'm watching a little of these sort of studies overlap. And I want to make sure that if somebody's doing work that's going to feed or educate another group, that they're not doing the same work. So there's a little bit that I'm kind of watching and like, who's going to get done first based on, yep, we don't need that information. We got it from this study. So here, just use this. So I'm not sure who's going to end up here first, but they'll all be kind of right behind each other.
Yeah.
Then we'll be able to make a more informed decision about finances and how to either phase it or if borrowing is part of.
Yeah, I mean, we could phase it, we could borrow it. You're going to be in a better position to get grants. Like this is everything that a grant wants. Hey, have you done this? Yup. Have you done this? Yup. Have you done this? Yup. Do you have money? We do. Like there's no real thing. And campground in the gorge is very much needed. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially with ADA accessibility.
especially with ADA accessibility.
All right. Fantastic. Business action items, approve update FY 25-26 grant program guidelines. Question set and scoring criteria. Rubik.
All right, so thank you, commissioners. I just did some highlights in my memo for you on page 13 of the changes that were made at the commission's direction from your July 29th work session on the grant program. And what we have here in your packet is the updated grant program guidelines and the grant questions. Let me know how much you want me to go through this, but I'll real quickly mention the upper level updates that we've made. Project completion for round 2 projects is set at December 31st, 2026. We have a new requirement that all grant applications to the small and the large grants include at least 3 letters of support from individuals and organizations located in Cascade Locks. We have our new requirement that construction projects include contractor quotes that are less than 90 days old and still valid. And the building and landowner proof of permission for the project if the applicant is not the landowner or the building owner. We do have some changes to the reimbursement language just to clarify how the grant payouts are at the same rate as the grant match ratio that's determined in the grant agreement. That was a little bit confusing for applicants in round one. And we have a greater emphasis on the requirement for applicants to illustrate their project's alignment and tangible support of the strategic business plan goals and objectives. And a greater emphasis on the requirement for the applicants to illustrate that the community has a need for their project as well, considered separately from the business need. So if you would skip to page 19. That's a second set of questions in the application. I just wanted to bring your attention to questions 4 through 8. So in round one, we asked our applicants to describe the need or problem or challenge that their business is facing, and or that Cascade Locks was facing, and those were sort of in the same question. And here we've wanted to split them out. So essentially, we're taking those points on the scoring criteria and multiplying them and amplifying them by splitting this out. And so they also have to explain how their project specifically will solve the problem for their business. But then in question number 6, they need to really demonstrate that there's also a broader community need for their project. What is the challenge facing the community that their project could address? And for them to describe how their project addresses that. We had in round one question number 7, but here we've sort of rephrased it to kind of prompt our applicants to really be more specific on how exactly their project aligns and achieves some of the objectives in our strategic business plan. I'm not going to say, I don't want to say that it was too easy to fudge this question, but it was too easy to not be specific in this question in round one, when what I was really hoping we would see is an applicant saying, my project will achieve objective C goal 1, 2, and 3 by, doing XYZ. And that's really what we're looking for. And so we really kind of emphasize that. And then on 8, we added some more detailed clarification on a prompt on how we really want to see those job numbers. So when we say, will your project result in the creation of new jobs? The answer, well, yes, it will eventually because my business will do better, is not sufficient. We really want to say, yes, I will be creating part-time jobs in the short term in the construction, and I will be creating new long-term permanent full-time jobs by XYZ. So that's just more emphasis on the economic metrics of the project with better prompts. The rubric, MCED is working on the rubric now. And each of those questions, 5, 6, 7, and 8 will be double weight. And last year, I think it was just 6 and 7 that were double weight. So we'll have 4 questions that are double weight. So we'll be able to give you that rubric as soon as MCED is done with it. So for your motion tonight, just leave the rubric part out of it, which you're actually, I have a recommendation on page 13 for the motion to approve the updated grant program guidelines and the application questions, and direct staff to launch round 2 of the program on September 1st of this year with an October 31st application deadline. I have sent emails out to everybody that received a grant in round 1 and letting them know that in order that they have until December 31st of this year to complete their project per their grant agreement. But if they want to be eligible to apply for round 2, they need to have their project complete and their final report submitted and approved by October 31st, which is the application deadline for round 2. And they've all received that information. So do you guys have any questions about those or?
Very thorough.
I have a question. As far as the, what's in the parentheses with italics, will those remain?
Yeah, so when you're filling out the online form, there's the question. And then there's an additional information prompt. So I get a chance to
And that
kind
would
of, and that's like the coaching prompt, right? So the question is the question. But then there's this sort of coaching prompt that's saying, make sure your answer is closer to this than just, vague information. And it'll help people score higher to sort of give a sample.
I like it. Well, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the updated grant program guidelines and application questions and direct staff to launch round 2 of the Economic Development Grant Program on September 1st, 2025. With an October 31st, 2025 application deadline. No seconds.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It can
Okay,
discuss.
there has been a motion and a second to approve, updated grant program guidelines. Any more discussion?
Question on the people that were, first round on
Yeah.
that. Because it was kind of a short time frame.
Yeah.
We didn't make choices until
Yes.
halfway through the year, and then they had a short time to do it.
Correct.
What would be the possibility of allowing somebody to still apply for the 26, for the grant in 2026, pending their completion of their
Mhm.
thing, like have everybody to approve it, and if they don't complete, they obviously wouldn't get funded. But if they did, that would give them a little bit more time to actually finish what they're.
I was gonna think it's the same thing. That's
Mhm.
not a bad idea.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Does that cause?
So they have until December 31 to finish it. And if they finished it, their application that was submitted then can be.
I think it's administratively more difficult because you have two grants running simultaneously, right?
Okay, yeah.
I don't think,
Would
right.
the grant be approved prior to December?
I think
Well,
there's-
it will be. then.
I think there's also maybe a case to be made that they complete their grant and that we're not appreciating. We weren't entirely impressed with the way in which it was completed. Like, hey, this is this thing that we're going to do, and then we see it and we're like, wow, I mean, you certainly did everything you said you were going to do,
So
but
they might-
are we in on phase 2? I mean, I think what you're saying probably doesn't apply. Most people who are going to do what they are going to do what they're going to do and will be great as a successful candidate.
Yeah.
Second time.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think through because when you ask that question, the main thing that sparked in my mind is that the big difference between round 2 and round 1 is that you all will be considering the applications all at once in a batch. And so there's a much heightened competition element there. And so how would that affect the competition? So if you had an applicant that wasn't really eligible to apply unless we change those guidelines tonight, and we said, another applicant was turned down for that the applications were stronger, but there was this one technical ineligibility, you'd be in a position of having to say no to somebody who was eligible and it was their first round. So I can see it being tricky, and so that was what we were kind of thinking through with the timeline during the work session was, the sweet spot for us, really for you guys, was trying to sync things up with your spring planning, your budget schedule, how you were going to set up the fund for a potential round 3, and so
And
there's
then,
that.
I guess to continue on that, I'm trying to like think through scenarios here.
Yeah.
Say you have someone that hasn't finished their phase 1 by the end of this, but we allow them to still input. What if they don't even finish, but they still win the next award? Does that
We would have to-
negate them from winning? the
Yeah,
second
I think it
award?
makes things a little
And
tricky.
Does that take do they need to return any grant funds?
Right.
And then you're right, that's a whole admin
the confusion more complicated.
And what it feels to me like is a result of round one, like you're saying, being so pushed back in the calendar and it was such a short window that there's still, it's gonna be round two, round three to catch up. So if round three opens July 1, versus September 1 to October 31st, I think then we're really truly in the sweet spot because then you've gone through your budget planning process, you established the fund, and then we can open a new cycle sooner than fall.
And we'll be able to,
So-
and we'll be able to make adjustments sooner.
And
this
by
time.
then, the round one people will be totally wrapped up, so there's that potential too, that round three could be following pretty quickly on round two.
Right.
With just leaving it as it's written up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, my only fear was if somebody hasn't completed their first one, are they
Yeah.
just trying to double dip and get more money because they don't have enough money to finish their?
That's
finish their
one thing
project?
well, the other thing that we haven't thought
Yeah.
about is,
Exactly.
yeah, it's unlikely, but there is the possibility that some money's left over because we didn't get enough applications for the entire fund. So let's say application closes October 31st, you've got your batch of applications, and even if they were all successful, they don't equal 150,000. Then the commission will have to make a decision of saying, okay, well, then round two applicants are eligible as they complete, even though they're past the application deadline. Maybe that's a scenario. So we don't know. We don't know what we're gonna see. It's gonna be kind of a completely different feel than round one. So
And there will be another round, I'm assuming there'll be a round three, so if they.
maybe, yeah, if
they
you guys
miss
want to
the-
keep going.
They miss this year, they can.
They could maybe piggyback and do you're a round one person and you apply for round three.
Really ready by round three.
Yeah.
I know that 6 is really touching on my primary comments, for the grant itself.
Is there a broader community need? Oh, for the community impact? Right.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily capture what I was getting at. I think that how will your project help the community and the port is sort of in that vein. I'm okay with it written as is. But I know that I also understand there were probably challenges with making sure that all these questions fall in their strategic business plan.
Mm-hmm.
But with the way, it's not exactly what I was trying to get at, but I'm okay with it as written.
Okay.
As written.
Okay.
I do like the how we project out the community and the port. That to me feels much more close to the essence of what I was trying to get at.
Okay. Great.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
I
Opposed?
But Travis, are you and I on that?
You there? Got it? No. We
I lost them.
I'm an I. You got me?
Thank you. Gotcha. Thank you, Trev.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right, if there's nothing more to come before the commission, we will adjourn. Thanks for attending.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks, David and Kurt.
All right, bye.
Unplug everything. Put it back. Yeah, well, yeah. Replug it. Okay.